Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Future of AV What's Next panel. I've got a great selection of our sponsor panelists here, some experts in a variety of areas in Pro AV, so that should make for a good talk. With me, I have Martin Bodley, Director and Global Head of Bose Work for Bose Professional, where he's working to build a new business category focused on disrupting the unified communications market by delivering best-in-class, beyond good enough solutions that improve the collaborative experience, regardless of where people are located. Also with me is Jason Vossler, the product consultant for Dell large format monitors at Dell Technologies. Jason joined Dell in 2004 straight out of college and currently leads all go-to-market efforts in North America for the Dell large format monitor business. This includes maximizing channel partner strategy, developing and aligning with key strategic initiatives, and development and execution of a comprehensive go-to-market plan. Also with me is Clint Hoffman, the Chief Operating Officer for Kramer Electronics North America. He's been in the Pro AV industry since 1985. He began his career at Pro AV dealership in New Jersey and has spent many years working at manufacturers including Sony, Panasonic, and Mitsubishi, serving in various sales, operations, product development, and marketing positions. Vanessa Jensen is a Senior Market Development Specialist at Shure, which provided us with these Aonic 50 wireless noise canceling headphones, so a big thanks for that. She has over 17 years of experience in the professional audio and systems integration market, including the management of product lines ranging from loudspeakers to discussion systems to infrared listening and RF analog and digital wireless. And lastly, we have Rich Ventura, Vice President of B2B at Sony Electronics Professional Solutions Americas. He has spent 20 plus years within sales, strategy, and marketing organizations focusing on display solutions, video analytics, cloud platforms, display technologies, projectors, and direct view LED solutions. He's a longstanding member of many industry organizations, including a tenure as chairman of the board of directors for the Digital Signage Federation. All right, so looking forward to the future of AV, what's next? And I guess we have to start with the biggest thing that's happened to AV in recent years and is continuing to drastically shape it going forward, which is the convergence of AV and IT, something that is now more rapidly accelerating given today's climate. So how does the convergence of AV and IT make the AV industry's offerings stronger? And what are some of the biggest challenges that come along with it? Would you like to start, Martin?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I think it's a very interesting time, of course. And as we see this convergence continuing to accelerate, one of the things I'd like to shine a light on is sort of the go-to-market model. We often think when we talk about convergence from AV to IT about the actual technology itself, and certainly there are lots of things happening in that regard and along the technology lines, where the technology is migrating away from sort of special black boxes where there's ultimate expertise required for either audio or video technologies. But I actually am witnessing a lot of things happening on the channel and the go-to-market side. So there is a convergence there where we have these very large distribution and channel partners who are playing in the IT space. And now more and more products are being able to be developed and that are easy enough to sort of install and deliver through those types of channels. So at Bose, we, in the professional division, we haven't really engaged with those types of distributors until recently. So, IT distributors like Synex or Tech Data or Annixter, these are people that we're partnering with. They bring a lot of value on the IT side, and they're starting to make more and more progress on delivering value to the go-to-market plans for companies in the AV/IT convergence area too. So that's very exciting for us, and I think that's going to be helpful for the end users in the long run to be able to get devices from people like that and through those channels.
Yeah, if I could expand on that a little bit, in this AV IT convergence, we originally thought it was going to be like some kind of a product-based thing many years ago. It turned out to be more of a customer thing. We were now selling to a different customer, and the title AV Technology Manager from the industry has pretty much disappeared. And if it hasn't in some areas like higher education, well then that person's probably now reporting to the IT department. So the nature of the customer we're selling to has changed. And then the requirements, the conversation's going to change, but also the requirements are going to change. And we find, I feel that we're moving towards more of a software based solutions. We have wireless presentation and collaboration. It's sold in a box, but it's software, and control is software, and codecs for AV over IP is software. We sell that in a box too, but it's software. So I think we're moving to kind of a software future, and then that will lead to a whole like managed services conversation. But I'll leave that for later.
Well, I would say too. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rich.
No, go ahead. You know, go ahead.
I was gonna say, guys, that I think the kind of the neat thing too here, if you think about it, really is the explosion of data. You know, in the traditional conference room or presentation space, you know, whether it be AI or MR, VR, IoT, right? The amount of data in these spaces now, it's just, you know, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And if you look at it, you know, the evolution of technology over the past 35 years or so, you know, it's almost like we're kind of at a new starting point. Because of the amount of data that's literally at your fingertips. I think that's the really is driving that conversion, Matt, that you were mentioning, both in your traditional IT, or AV space, and then also in the new IT space as well in these presentation spaces. Sorry, Rich, go ahead, jump in.
Oh, you're good. You're good. No, I mean, I think the thing we have to think about too is how we're serving the customers, where we're serving the customers, all that's changed. If a customer is, you know, their IT department or their AV team or whatever, they need to be able to do anything no matter where they are in the world. They need to know statuses. Everything's becoming more connected as we look at more IoT devices. The importance of this new thing, the cloud, and it's kind of funny, 15 years ago, we talked about the cloud and everybody looked up in the sky and they realized the cloud really is it's a service, it's a platform, it's the direction we're moving. And I think in the last, I say 3 years, we've really seen that movement. We've talked about it, but I see in the last 3 years, with the explosion of things like Office 365 and Google Cloud and Azure services, everything else, I mean, Clint said hit it right on the money. It's not about the hardware as much as it used to be. It's software and how the hardware works with it. And now how does the hardware, the software, and the services work with the cloud? And then how does the data tie in with it? So I think we have such a different conversation and such a different way to market than we've ever had before.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, obviously we're driving towards solutions that are more user-friendly, obviously easier to integrate and offer simpler management, right? Those growing number of endpoints do also, though, cause some stress on the IT team. So I think in terms of, you know, the corporate infrastructure, there are some challenges there that we all need to be aware of. Of course, there's security, quality of service, bandwidth, and governance. But security is a really big one, and we definitely need to keep our eye on that ball kind of as we move forward and as this convergence continues.
Great. Rich, you brought up the idea of cloud and its growing importance in Pro AV. I'd like to hear from some of the others about how you see cloud's impact being.
Well, Matt, I'll jump in. You know, I think it's accessibility to data from any location, from any device, from anywhere at any time, right? That's really what the cloud provides you, I think, at a very humanistic standpoint. But there's also some unique challenges that come into that. And Vanessa had brought this up about security, right? I think that's probably at everybody's top of mind. Not only how do you integrate the technology, but how do you secure it? And then at the end of the day, how do you protect your data? The cloud also provides some unique aspects there, right? In being able to provide, I think, a one-stop shop from a security standpoint or a vulnerability standpoint versus multiple devices maybe throughout your entire organization. So it's definitely, you know, the wave of the future, right? But really, I think it comes down to accessibility to data at literally at your fingertips, and that's what it gives you.
It also gives you the ability, in some cases, to not literally have to go on site to solve a problem, to troubleshoot. So you also have that benefit, especially in a situation like the one we're in the world right now, where things have changed quite a bit. So it gives you that flexibility as well. And you know, I once heard from a consultant in the industry that, from a security point of view, the biggest threat is that person who walks into a building with a thumb drive at the top. So being in the cloud is actually is much more secure.
One other thing to think about is with the cloud, what we're now introducing is globalization of platforms. So whether I use a Sony display or a Kramer control system, or you go down a list of all the different technologies, there's this expectation now that I can control everything from one spot. And now I can maintain standards. So if I'm a global organization, a Microsoft, you go down a list of all these global companies, I can set a standard globally, deploy it globally, manage it globally, support it globally, and everything through the cloud. That wasn't there 10 years ago. And we've always talked about why, one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest opportunities for IT organizations is the ability of delivering globally. Well, the cloud is one of those tools that are going to allow you to deploy globally.
Yeah, I'll jump in and build on what you just said, Rich, too, which is at Bose, we really have this core principle about delivering great experiences, and we're always sort of keeping the end customer in mind and what is their experience and how do we help our partners deliver and ensure those experiences. So the cloud to us it's about being able to have real-time updates, right down this Internet of Things and headphones that are connected to the internet, to the cloud, I mean, and being able to deliver those sort of flawless experiences, get ahead of problem solving. And personalization is another big area that I don't think anyone's brought up yet, but this idea that, we don't have to make one solution that everyone conforms to. You can kind of have your own profiles and update them as you go, and your headset remembers, the way you like to have the volume set, and things get personalized, and the cloud enables that kind of stuff to be much easier to deploy.
Great. The topic of security came up, and that's obviously very central with the convergence of AV and IT. What are some things that integrators and tech managers should consider to protect the security and the privacy of their clients and end users?
I think it's really important that integrators and tech managers really understand the security requirements of their client or their end user and work with them to ensure that their needs are met. But I also think it doesn't end after installation, right? It's continuous, that security topic. So staying on top of firmware updates, security patches from manufacturers, looking at solutions where manufacturers are adding encryption to their signal path perhaps, and other tools that are out there like DDM, Dante's Domain Manager, which does give you some security in terms of user access. I think there's a lot of things out there to think about and really continue to keep your mind on. It's really all about awareness, I think, continued awareness.
I think it's important that as integrators, and just as an industry as a whole, we stop getting caught in this use of consumer grade equipment in professional installations. That's what's going to bite everybody, is more and more use consumer grade solutions that do not have security, do not have protection, all the things that has been mentioned, Vanessa mentioned, and others. The more opportunity you have for breaches. And some of the integrators I've been talking a lot to, a lot of them have started security practices. They've either hired security officers, they've hired security engineers, and they've even told me, we will not sell a consumer grade product. We will not sell something that is on the shelf at a retail environment, because yes, it saves the customer money, but it costs so much in the long term in the data breaches and everything else. And so they have to think about that. And then the other thing they have to think about is there's so many laws out there with California Privacy Act, and you start getting this whole thing with video analytics and the whole conversation on what defines an impression versus what defines capturing somebody's face. I mean, these are big topics. And you look at organizations like the World Privacy Forum, they're tackling these topics and they're making them top of mind. So we have to think not just on the data that's stored, but also the data that's being captured as well.
Anybody else? Okay, so there's lots of great advancements and general trends that are going on in the world of technology, like 5G and AI, AR, VR. How are some of those things, do you think, how will some of those things shape the pro AV industry specifically?
Well, I'm most looking forward to the ability to do some voice commands within the Pro AV install, you know, in a classroom, a boardroom, a conference room. When we get back into those places, I think voice command is going to be an important part of the future of our designs and our systems.
Yeah, and I would expand on that to Clint's comment around the voice control, right? I mean, I think everybody's probably bit the Alexa bug at some point in their personal lives. So when will you see that in the conference room? That's definitely the wave of the future. But Matt, you brought up, 5G, AI, right? We talked about really the explosion of data. That's going to transform the conference room space as well, whether it's making that unique user experience more simplified or whether it's putting more information literally at your fingertips. There's probably a lot of different ways that can go, and you could probably have a lot of conversations around whether that could be either a benefit or a negative. But to Clint's point earlier around the voice control of the conference room, it's also video, audio, and data, and really all three of those kind of combined, right? That's going to make a unique experience. With the world that we live in, I think video communications and face-to-face interaction is really the new thing. Right. Even here I think you could probably make the argument in the past 12 months, right? I can tell you I've spent more time on face-to-face video calls than I ever thought I probably would just a couple months ago. So being able to be able to transmit and to be able to have or be able to share or be able to have video content, right, over 5G and really a seamless user experience from any device, pretty impressive, right? To be able to remotely collaborate and communicate from any location. That's probably the name of the game moving forward.
Yeah, and I think if you look at what the impact 5G will have, think about a few years back the impact Bluetooth had in our industry.
Right.
Then you had the impact that PoE had in our industry. Now you look at the impact 5G can have from an infrastructure perspective. We can put a device anywhere. You're not limited now on whether or not you can run conduit in the ground or in a wall to get power or to get video or internet connectivity, because we can run a single cable for PoE. We'll think about the same thing for 5G. Now I can put a kiosk anywhere and I can get data from it. The amount of data we can transmit is just ridiculously crazy, especially if we start looking at things like video streaming, conference rooms, digital signage, applications that have high data usage. It changes dramatically. When you look at the voice aspect, what I found interesting was it was almost a year ago, BrightSign introduced Alexa integrated into their digital signage player. Everybody laughed. No one's laughing now because now you can deploy a BrightSign player on an interactive kiosk, talk to the kiosk without having to touch the screen. So it's going to change things. And I think it's also going to create opportunities for people to think a different way of using the technology and be really creative on ways to deploy the technology. All these different technologies are great because they change the conversation. And once people start looking at it differently, it's amazing how we can deploy differently.
I think finally the world is now going to place video conferencing and video calls like we're having right now in the same realm as email and phone calls. So now we're finally at that point. The quality of the video and the audio can be much better with things like 5G just around the corner and rolling out. I also think about instances where post-processing will be done. So things like transcriptions and AI, if you can deliver high quality raw data, even if it's not needed for the real-time thing, if it can be used as a post-process later for developing and transcribing or whatever post-process can be done in the cloud, that's also very powerful. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of things around that, coming out shortly.
What about things like machine learning and facial recognition?
Facial recognition is like a slippery slope. Like that goes right back to the privacy issue. I mean, it would be great to even know, how many people are using this conference room, or what are the meetings looking like? If you're booking a 10-person conference room and there's 2 people in there, that might have some impact on kind of your standards going forward. But again, it goes back to what everyone's sort of saying about that data, the big data and analytics, what are we using that for, or what can we use that for? When is that over the line? So I think that's, I think there's possibility there, but I think it needs to be figured out, and it needs a lot of minds on it to kind of figure out what's the right way to approach it.
At Bose, we just,
Biometrics is really slippery.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Rich.
I was just going to say biometrics is really slippery because we have to look at the application defines the technology. Facial recognition is the worst word to use because that is, people use that too wide. They think it's everything. Facial recognition is a security application. 100%. It's a security and identification application. So I know that Clint is in my building. If you're using using a technology to count how many people are in the room, that's not facial recognition. That's facial detection. That is object detection. And that's part of our problem is we have a lot of companies who don't know the difference and they throw these terms out there and it scares everybody. And then you get the ACLU and you get the World Privacy Forum and all of them start getting upset about it. And then you add in California Privacy Act and GDPR and Illinois Privacy Act all gets in there. But I think what we have to do as an industry is we need to define the applications to the technology and define what those use cases are and where they fit. If it's recognition, okay, that's a security, that's an opt-in environment, it's a security type of thing. If it is counting people or understanding traffic patterns and understanding how many people are in an environment and things like that, completely different conversation. And I think as industry leaders, as well as just members of the industry, customers, you go down a list of it, we have to start having a better common dialogue and a better common dictionary of what all these terms mean. Because this is where we're going to get a lot of confusion in our industry.
I was just going to say that at Bose, we just developed a video bar. It's called the VB1. And in there, we have some AI that uses, detection of faces and bodies and things like that in order to do the auto framing so that you don't have to ride the zoom button or pan tilt zoom. It kind of does it automatically for you. And I think when you start going down that road, that's helpful. It's not crossing over into invading people's privacy, that kind of thing. But you're going to see more and more of those like, hey, this is normally a person would be doing this and it's now being done. And you could easily tie in sort of the audio if you have now an adaptive microphone array that is also tied into what you're picturing. Maybe it only listens to the person that it's zoomed in on rather than the whole room. Those kinds of things become possible. And I think those are smart uses of that. And we're just going to see more and more of that kind of stuff coming out in products.
Yeah, I think with distance learning and these classrooms, we have to have those technologies. I mean, I know, that solutions that I've seen, me being new to Sony on my 7th week, I've seen solutions that we have, I've seen solutions that others have, and, tracking and identification of handwriting, all of those things, that's where AI is going to be really valuable for us right now as an industry.
So building on what Martin said, what are some technological developments in each of your company's specific areas of expertise that you're excited about and that are driving your product development?
Well, I'll start then. In cloud-based control, we've talked about the cloud, the benefits of the cloud, the security, the ability to be anywhere in the world and do anything. We actually have a cloud-based control solution. And for those very reasons, you can be in your bedroom in New Jersey and you can troubleshoot or add new devices or program a system in California without having to be there. And, if you look at education, the big problem in education is what they call tickets, when they have to actually send a human being to go to a classroom because, say, for instance, the instructor can't get the room working properly. Well, now they can still remain in their facility, even if it's a different building, log into that room, maybe get that thing solved before they actually have to physically go there, and then there's no ticket, and that's what colleges love. So being cloud-based and the benefits that brings is really exciting for us.
And Matt, from a Dell Display perspective, really what we focus on is helping facilitate a remote collaboration, right, or a remote collaborative experience, and making that user experience very, very easy, so that people want to come back and use the technology, right? And that could be from any location, whether it be in a conference room or a classroom, or maybe it's in a work from home or a work or learn from anywhere scenario. The cool thing about Dell, right, is that we've got the product and technology and solutions and partners really to do just about anything that you would want to do to help enable collaboration, remote collaboration from any location. And at the display level, that's really what we focus on. It's being a key piece of that entire story, but really around bringing people together, and especially with the times that we live in, that's become absolutely paramount. So that's been a laser focus for us and will continue to be so for the foreseeable future.
I'll jump
Yes,
in with Bo's
Go, Martin.
perspective. Yeah, thank you. We're excited. People know us as a research company, and as I mentioned, it's we're focused on audio experiences and improved experiences for people. And lately, work from home and working on the go, sort of working from wherever is a high priority. So one of the things I'm excited that we're working on and we do really well as a company is wearable devices. I'm wearing these 700 UC headsets, noise canceling, but we've got a lot of other wearable form factors as well that are either in development or everyone may know the Frames product too, which are sunglasses that have audio capability built in for full conferencing. So that even is an open ear platform. But looking at lots of different ways where people can wear the technology depending on what their job is and what their workflows are. Certain wearable styles are better for certain workflows. So I'm excited about where we've come as a company along these lines, and we've got a lot more, and bringing it into the business realm is really what Bo's work is all about.
From the Sony side, I mean, a major focus around collaboration, but what's great about it is we don't look at it just at the screen level. So you take the ability of wirelessly transmitting to our displays with our Android device on it, then you go into the ability of in the classroom itself or in the meeting space, having our Beam microphone solution, having what we call the Edge platform, which is using AI to track and look at handwriting and transmitting this information and truly building the collaboration environment as if you're in the room. So a person could be standing there working and drawing on a chalkboard or a grease board. All this information and our cameras are picking that up and transmitting as if we wrote it on the camera itself. And it's utilizing all of this technology so that we can really help organizations through their distance in learning and distance engaging. That's going to be stuff that we're all going to be focusing on as an industry to grow. And it's really exciting to see technology like that within our organization.
So from a Shure perspective, like Martin, we're also very focused on work from home at this time, given the current situation. But we're also working closely on sort of soft codec trends and how that has driven innovation in the conference space. And to that end, I'm pretty excited about the software-based DSP that we launched earlier this year. That allows you to unlock a professional audio upgrade in your conference space, and also kind of our ecosystem approach, right? Where you have the entire signal chain from one manufacturer with comprehensive software solutions to install and to manage that entire solution. So pretty excited about both of those.
Great. To touch a little bit on the future of the business side of Pro AV. So with technologies continuing to accelerate rapidly, AV as a service is growing in momentum. So like when I want to get a new cell phone, when they 2 years, my phone will be left in the dust. I'll go into AT&T and get a new cell phone. Do you see that model of AV as a service where companies will provide an end user with an entire suite of solutions? Do you see that picking up in momentum at all?
Well, I'll say that I think that that's one way you can look at it. You can sell a system and incorporate the cost of the hardware into the overall price and then have it be done as a managed service and replace the hardware during that period of time if something new comes out. But I really think that if we're really moving towards more of a software-based solution for our industry, then managed services is more around that. If you're an integrator, and your life to this point in time has been, how many projects do I have in the pipeline right now? Because if I don't have enough, I can't make payroll every other Friday. Now, if you fast forward to the future, if they can sell some managed services, because our stuff moves to the more software-based kind of solutions, then they can start their budgeting process in January by saying, I know I'm getting this much revenue. Now I need this many projects over here in order to be a successful company. And that's what every integrator owner wants. And when we get to a software world, we can look at other examples, our smartphones, whatever. Whoever has the best interface at that point in time is the winner. So ease of use, familiarity, all those things are going to become the most important thing in our industry.
Solution as a service business is extremely difficult. It's not the easiest because you don't have all the parts, and so you have to bring a lot of the relationships and all the different pieces to it. And where the challenge is that interoperability between the different technologies, different platforms, and different solutions. That's an opportunity and it's a challenge. And I think we're all trying to get there in one way or another, either from manufacturer side, the integrator side, and we're going to meet somewhere in the middle. But I think the key thing, and you touched on it when you said, okay, AT&T, I gotta go to AT&T to get my phone. They've built this loyalty, this tie-in to your business. And I think that's the opportunity the AV integrators have, is the more they understand about the business needs of the customers, the more that they can help them plan and build out. To me, that's a big part of managed services, is let's build out your 2, your 3, your 5-year plan and not just worry about this one project. Because like Clint said, now I know my book of business. I know what's coming in the future and I know how I can grow it. That's the opportunity I think that we have. We know tech's going to change. We know 8K displays are eventually going to come out. We know 5G is coming, 6G is right behind it, and probably 7G a few years after that. And it's building out that long-term plan so we can support the different software and the different technologies that come out.
I think the cloud opens up a lot of business opportunity, variability. So it certainly is there, and you're seeing some of these platform or service providers starting to do some things. Zoom with the hardware as a service type of model they're releasing recently, and I think you may see more of that, kind of like in the phone industry in your example, Matt, which is somebody subsidizing a product. I mean, you look at a Facebook portal or those products, I think it's pretty clear that those types of hardware are subsidized in order to get people using the platform. And I think we'll see that kind of stuff happening more. But again, I'll go along with what Rich said. I'll second that. It's a tough model. Hardware as a service is a tough model. So I don't think you're going to see lock, stock, everyone shifting over to this pay as you go kind of thing anytime soon. And in the real AV industry, especially when you're talking about installed rooms and that kind of stuff. More Internet of Things or devices that are used for homework or for on-the-go use. Yeah, there may be some programs that come rolling out that way.
Great. So we just have a few more minutes left before we turn it over to some questions. So as a way of looking forward, normally I would ask in past summits, I would say, what do you think the AV industry will look like in 5 or 10 years? But instead I would ask what it'll be like on the level of our audience here for our end users and integrators. So just like in a short summary, I guess, go through and say, how do you think the job descriptions of AV integrators and AV managers will change over the next few years?
You're gonna need some definitely some networking skills, right? Be able to, IT skills. Definitely not your traditional pro AV, which is more design, a little bit more artistry. I think it's going to be a much more technical role, Matt, moving forward, and really that convergence of IT into the traditional AV space, like we talked about. So really having a skill set that gives you a good blend of both sides of the fence is a good way to win, I think, and put yourself in a good position for success.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've gone from analog systems to digital systems, from standalone systems to real network systems. And we've seen that skill set change over the last few years. And I think it's just going to continue to evolve. So in the past, maybe there was AV experts kind of on staff that had to come in and tune things. But now we're seeing manufacturers come out with systems that are simpler to deploy and those that offer consistent, repeatable outcomes. So I think those smarter systems that self-tune and self-heal will have a big impact in terms of how that job description, that role of that integrator and AV manager will continue to evolve.
I
Yeah,
kind of,
think.
oh, go ahead, Rich, sorry.
No, go. I know we keep hitting each other. I say cloud engineers. We got it. You're gonna have to hire cloud engineers. You're gonna need to hire analytics people. You're gonna need to hire cloud architects. You're gonna need to hire data analysts, security officers, privacy officers. You're gonna have. I think it's actually a great opportunity as we look at the next generation of AV that's coming out of college. A lot of them are taking data analytics courses. A lot of them are taking machine learning courses, AI courses, Azure or AWS courses or Google Cloud. That's the type of people we're going to see be a really strong and a large part of the AV industry as we move forward, way more than we've ever seen before, and even more than IT's even seen today, because of all the different ways that the technology is crisscrossing each other.
I think that I use the analogy of a drone pilot. So, you know, the idea of having to go on site and make multiple visits to install and to fine tune, you know, I'll build on what Vanessa was saying. You know, systems are becoming smarter, easier to deploy. They're all being designed with that in mind so that people can install them quickly, they can maintain them easily. And so I see the job description of being more like, you know, somebody who rarely leaves the office and has to go on site, but needs to be really good at debugging and executing things from a remote portal. So that's my my view on where the integration side is going to go.
And I'll say that clearly, you know, as Jason said, networking is a key. Avixa is coming out with networking classes if they haven't already got them to the market, because the traditional CTS stuff is still important, but networking is such a big thing, and understanding networks. You know, from a troubleshooting point of view at Kramer, the solutions we now sell, they go on a network. And that just increases the technical support call times by, you know, quadruple. You know, it's a lot of challenges, and the network is a key. Hopefully, the science of acoustics and visual stuff will still be important, such that it keeps a kind of a AV specialty alive. Depending upon how much self-healing and self-tuning these devices can do, there is some science to that, and that'll coexist with this networking stuff going forward.
Great. So that's about all the time we have now. So yeah, thanks again to our sponsors, Bose, Dell, Kramer, Shure, and Sony, and all the other sponsors today at the AVIT Summit. Make sure to go visit their booths and see their latest solutions. And with that, we'll open it up to questions from the audience.